Treating people equally is not only an ethical responsibility we all have, it's largely a legal one too. The personal characteristics we've touched upon are protected by the Equality Act, which means it's unlawful to treat someone unfairly or to discriminate against them because of a protected characteristic. The Act also protects someone if they are directly discriminated against because of a combination of two relevant protected characteristics. This legislation has two main aims: to harmonise discrimination law and to support progress on equality. We cover the characteristics in this section so you can get a good understanding of what behaviour is expected of you and your organisation. If you don't live in the UK, the laws in your country of residence may be slightly different, but disrespecting or treating people unfairly because of any characteristic is unethical. So everything in this section is relevant. To refresh your memory, these characteristics are age, race, disability, religion or belief, sex, sexual orientation, gender reassignment, pregnancy and maternity, and marriage and civil partnership. Although, please bear in mind, we are more diverse and complex than this list suggests. Our whole identity doesn't fit into a few neat boxes, and there are other personal characteristics that make up our identity, which may not be protected by law, but that doesn't make them any less important. Remember to try the 60-second "What if that was me" exercise as we move through this section to see how it makes you feel.
It's unlawful to treat someone less or more favourably in the workplace because of their age. This kind of discrimination can happen to someone at any age, but there are two particularly vulnerable groups: those over 50 and those under 18. The average age of a UK worker is already in the 40s, and people over 50 will be the largest age bracket in the workforce over the next decade. And as we're living for longer, many of us are working for longer. So age discrimination is something that all organisations and their employees need to be aware of. Most workplaces employ a range of people from different age groups, so it's important that no one is treated differently because of this characteristic. Things to avoid include using age-related nicknames, making age-related jokes, assuming that a younger worker will be less competent, assuming that an older worker will be less able, and not offering opportunities to people or revoking certain parts of their role because of their age. It's all about getting to know your colleagues as individuals so you can witness their skills and capabilities firsthand. With this in mind, your manager should share tasks fairly among the team and make sure that everyone's opinion is welcome in meetings. You all deserve to have the opportunity to share your opinions and to know that your input is valued. Your employer has a responsibility to make sure that no one is at a disadvantage because of their age. This means they may need to make reasonable adjustments to accommodate age-related matters if they pop up and impact someone's work, such as any hearing, visual or physical changes an older employee may experience over a long career, for example. Or younger people, especially those in their first job, may need more training to put them on an even playing field with everyone else, and to reduce the health and safety risks that can arise if someone doesn't have the correct training. It's all about equity, which means giving people fair access to the same opportunities. It's important to know that employers can't include age limits when they are advertising a job role, and a job description shouldn't include words that imply they are looking for applicants from particular age groups. For example, recent graduates or 10 years experience required. Employers are allowed to ask for a date of birth, but this information should be separate from the application, and it shouldn't be a deciding factor in whether someone gets the job or a promotion. They also can't force an employee to retire. However, there are a very small number of cases where an employer can make a decision based on someone's age, if they can show that it is objectively justified and proportionate.
A person's race includes the colour of their skin, their nationality, their citizenship, or their ethnic or national origin, and it's an integral part of a person's identity. If you take a second and think about your own race and racial background, how does it impact your daily life? What holidays do you celebrate? How does it influence your relationships, your preferences, the languages you speak, what you wear, and what you eat, for example? How does your race or racial background impact your experiences and opportunities at work and in the outer world? If the thoughts and memories that have come to mind have been largely positive and enjoyable, or perhaps not much has come to mind at all, then it's likely you are in a privileged position, because this suggests that your race has not put you at a disadvantage at work or in the wider world. However, if this has brought up any or many negative, hurtful, or threatening memories, it sadly means you are in quite the opposite position. Many people have and continue to experience inequality, harassment, discrimination and racism, particularly those within the BAME or BAME community. This stands for Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic, and we'll use this term throughout this course to represent those who are in racial minority groups. When we turn our attention to racial inequality in the workplace, the evidence shows us that members of the BAME community aren't always given equal or fair access to job opportunities, leadership roles or salaries that match their white counterparts. There is no place for racial discrimination at work or anywhere else, and addressing this is vital. It's not enough to simply say, "I'm not racist." Individuals and workplaces need to be actively anti-racist. They can start with 3 things: vocalising their support for marginalised communities, educating themselves about what life is like for people from different racial backgrounds to their own, and putting plans and policies in place to ensure that the BAME community are treated with the same respect and offered equal access to the same opportunities as white people. Your employer is responsible for making sure that no one is treated unfairly because of their racial background. For example, when recruiting, they can't imply or request that an employee is British. They can't ask for specific UK qualifications or ask for a level of English beyond what is actually required for the job. They must also ensure that you all understand the health and safety rules at work, regardless of language ability, which may mean hiring translators when needed, so that everyone is trained properly. A little later on, we'll be looking at allyship and what you and your organisation can do to help work towards racial equality.
UK law defines a disability as a physical or mental impairment which has a long-term and substantially adverse effect on a person's ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. Long-term usually means more than a year. Disabilities are varied. Some are visible, such as cerebral palsy or amputations, and others are invisible, like depression or diabetes, for example. There are also a number of conditions that are considered disabilities as soon as they are diagnosed, including HIV, cancer, and multiple sclerosis. Other progressive conditions are also considered disabilities as soon as the symptoms start having an effect on the individual. One of the most common types of disability discrimination is when managers and employers fail to make reasonable adjustments. This is a legal requirement. It's crucial for managers to focus on what an employee can do, and then reasonable adjustments should be agreed with the employee so their needs are met and they are not put at a disadvantage. These adjustments are simple, effective, and they often involve adapting the working environment or certain tasks so that an employee with a disability can carry out their duties. For example, buying a particular chair, fitting access ramps, adapting working hours or place of work, or arranging additional training, supervision, or support. The adjustments will depend on the organisation and the individual, but every workplace needs to make sure that their emergency evacuation procedures take account of people with disabilities. For example, by using flashing lights alongside sound alarms for those who are deaf or hard of hearing, and evacuation chairs for those who need physical assistance. All fire wardens need to be aware of everyone on site who has a disability, as they may have a PEEP, which is a personal emergency evacuation plan. One of the main barriers to reducing disability discrimination is the structure of society itself, and it's important to be aware of it. There's something called the social model of disability, which explains that disabilities will no longer be disabling if society meets everyone's needs. If each individual has their individual needs met, our attitudes around what makes someone disabled could change. It's worth thinking about. Consider that our buildings, recruitment processes, workplace policies, communication styles, and very importantly, our belief systems are capable of disabling somebody, rather than assuming all the responsibility is with the medical condition itself. As we touched upon earlier, these beliefs don't have to be fixed. The structure or fabric of society is created by people, and so it can be changed by people. Someone with a disability should not be viewed as less able than someone without a disability. Their body works in a particular way and has certain needs, which is actually the case for every human. Be mindful and respectful. Not all disabilities are visible, and regardless, none of us truly know how life is for somebody else. So treat each person with kindness and dignity. If you would like more information on the social model of disability, as well as an insight into ableism and what employers should and shouldn't do during the recruitment process, please see our additional resources.
Providing that it respects the fundamental human rights of others, people's religion, religious beliefs and philosophical beliefs are protected from discrimination. And for the same reason, those that don't have a religion or belief are protected as well. It's important to be aware that this protection refers to organised religions and those who hold a profound belief which affects their way of life or view of the world. But regardless of the law, in the ideal workplace, people feel safe sharing their thoughts and views while respecting the dignity and beliefs of others. The fact that everyone accepts that other people have different beliefs to them is not only perfectly normal, it's also part of what makes life interesting. To maintain this ideal workplace, or to move closer to it, you and your colleagues can. Make sure that everyone's dietary needs are met for catering events and team lunches, whether it's for religious reasons or those that are pescatarians, vegetarians or vegans, for example. Make it so not all work-based social events involve drinking or the pub, as some people don't drink for religious reasons or for mental or physical health reasons. Respect that other people's ways differ from yours. If people take time off work for religious reasons or take breaks at specific times of the day to practice their religion, accept that this is an important part of their life and, to be blunt, none of your business. This reminds me of the 60-second reframing exercise we spoke about earlier, the "how would I feel if that was me" question. Another person's important list is just as important as yours. Your employer must make accommodations for things that are connected to someone's religion, like prayer breaks or taking time off on significant holidays, providing the time is made up, and allowing people to wear clothes or jewellery that honours their religion, providing they don't pose a health and safety risk to the wearer or others. People should also be allowed to not partake in an activity or event if it goes against their beliefs. It's all about making sure that everyone feels comfortable, valued and respected.
Men and women are protected from discrimination on the basis of their sex. This includes those who have, are, or will be undergoing gender reassignment. It's discrimination if someone is not given equal opportunities for workplace progression or job roles because of their sex. And by law, both men and women must get equal pay for doing equal work, which is work that's the same as, the equivalent of, or of equal value to the other. Private sector companies that have more than 250 employees actually have to publish the average gender pay gap in their organisation as a percentage. With sex discrimination, stereotyping plays a big part. It's not uncommon for people to label certain roles as male and others as female, even if the labelling isn't consciously done, but it still affects people's opinions and decision making. It's crucial that everyone is given equal and fair access to job opportunities and roles, regardless of their sex, and that no one is treated unfairly, inappropriately, or unkindly because of their sex. There's a few things you and your colleagues can do to help. Avoid stereotyping people and job roles. Avoid passing comments or making jokes connected to someone's sex and their job role. And avoid sexual conversations and banter, as this could lead to someone feeling sexually harassed. Your employer has a responsibility to make sure that neither sex is treated less favourably than the other. Everyone should have the same opportunities for promotions, training and development. And people doing the same job should get equal pay. There are very few exceptions to this. For example, if someone has a much higher skill set than their counterpart, and these skills are critical to the role and hard to recruit, or if someone works in a particular location where living costs are much higher, but a person's sex should have nothing to do with it.
Sexual orientation towards people of the same sex, opposite sex, or either sex is protected from discrimination. And your employer has a few responsibilities in this area. They must safeguard any information about staff members' sexual orientation. They can be prosecuted if they don't, and their legal duty of care includes protecting staff from harassment and discrimination that's connected to their sexual orientation. You also have a few responsibilities too. First of all, if someone discusses their sexual orientation with you at work, or you come across the information somehow, it's unlawful for you to discuss it with other people. And it's simply a matter of personal privacy. So if you come across information connected to a colleague's sexual orientation, you should keep it confidential. It's also considerate to ask about partners, rather than using words like husband, wife, boyfriend or girlfriend, if you're ever chatting with a colleague and they are comfortable discussing it.
So now is the perfect time for you to take a short break and put the kettle on. It's best to stay energized and focused so you can enjoy your training and absorb the information well. We'll see you back here in a few minutes.